Hi folks. In this video I'm going to add my 2 cents onto the topic that's been going around a lot with the other gaming YouTubers lately, which has to do with lists of top RPGs. And I'll do another follow-up video if I have time in terms of top settings as well. So this would be my top 5 RPGs in no particular order, because something to know about me as a gamer is that I tend to avoid, or rather don't tend to really invest or enjoy generic game systems to a great degree. Games like GURPS or Hero System, because I feel like the mechanics of a game really can lend a different feel, a different flavor, and that the game itself should, or rather I approach a lot of games from the point of view that the game is designed to emulate the particular genre or setting or game style or rather story structure that it's going for. So that's why I tend to fragment my games between different genres using different systems, because I feel each of these different systems might contribute its own flavor to the game. Because I think a significant portion is, of course, what the GM and the players bring to the table, but there is definitely a distinction in game systems. Running the same setting using different game systems will result in a bit of a different feel. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, one thing to note is that this list is subject to change thanks to the imminent release of the Dresden Files role-playing game by Evil Hat. The pre-orders went up on Easter, and the game will be released in June, and I've really been looking forward to this game based on the book series by Jim Butcher, and I've been waiting for it for over 4 years, so when it comes out I'm going to give it a good read, and will more than likely if all goes well, I'm hoping that it will end up being in my list of top 5s. So bear that in mind, and I should be doing a review of it once it comes out proper and I've had time to digest it and hopefully run a game of it. The first game, should be no surprise to anybody who's seen my videos, is the Star Wars role-playing game, the D6 version. I go way back with this game. This was actually the first role-playing game that I ever owned, not necessarily the first one I played. I love it for the support that it was given. It's had dozens and dozens and dozens of books published, and I've picked up many of them. I have my Star Wars collection for D6 is over 50 books, I believe, at last count. I love that the rules are simple. It uses only 6-sided dice, and all you have to do is just grab a bunch of them and roll them and add them up, and that's the gist of the game. And it really supports the high-flying, fast-paced action of Star Wars that keeps things simple, fast-moving, encourages the GM just to use their own imagination, just carry the game forward, just invigorate the players and get them to ham it up. And that would probably be my bid in terms of sci-fi games in general. If I want a sci-fi game, that's the first game that I turn to. Likewise, for fantasy, it's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. This is the second edition of the book. I haven't done a review of this one yet, but I like Warhammer because it's a different kind of a take on fantasy. It's much darker, more dangerous. It's more about people than about true heroes. Those people will have flaws, and they are imperfect, and they face every day, with the threat of death, disease, insanity. It's just a world of danger, of significant danger, and the PCs are generally pretty low rungs of the ladder. And that means that their heroism is all that more. When they are heroic, when they charge forth in the face of danger, it makes it more profound, because they're basically risking everything, with every attempt. And it's not quite like D&D, where you've got hordes of magical items, and then you don't feel as much, as challenged, or that sort of thing. It's you find a rusty axe and you're happy, So great game, and I'll review it hopefully in the near future. When I want horror role-playing, I turn to Call of Cthulhu. I have much love for this game as well. I love Lovecraft stories as well as some of the other authors that have contributed to the mythos stories over the years. And the role-playing game just makes for very fertile ground for telling again kind of darker stories that's more about the characters and about them facing terrible odds and trying to overcome them despite the fact that they are really only human after all, and basically throwing themselves up against the darkness. First and foremost, in terms of settings for Call of Cthulhu, is this Delta Green. This is my favorite way to play Call of Cthulhu, and it's a very excellent setting that's been excellently crafted by the staff. I have all of the supplements for it. It's modern day. Some people call it X-Files, Cthulhu X-Files, but it's really more than that. I mean, it's so much more in-depth, integrated, cohesive than the X-Files was, and it's an excellent game. When I want when I turn to something that's a little bit more of a generic toolkit, I generally turn to Savage Worlds, and that's because it's simple. The rules are very simple, but there's a lot of bits and pieces that you can tweak the game with, and characters have lots of options in terms of their skills and their edges, so that from a very simple set of core mechanics you have a pretty robust engine that runs this game, and there's a lot of support out for it in a lot of different settings, and I like a bunch of the different settings that have been published. So to me it's about as close to a generic game as I like to get, in that it can do a whole number of different genres, but it's really, its focus is on kind of pulpy action. So it's really about action-adventure type of stories, and the characters that the character creation system encourages, or rather supports, it falls in that vein. So it's pulpy generic. So you can do a pulpy thing with Savage Worlds, whether it's a fantasy game or a sci-fi game or even horror. I mean, they've got the Realms of Cthulhu supplement out for it, so you could play Savage Worlds Cthulhu, and I've heard it works well. And finally, if I turn to supers, which I have great love for comic books and supers, I turn to Mutants and Masterminds. Let's see if I can get that horrendous glare off of there. There we go. The second edition of the Mutants and Masterminds RPG. And this is at its core the D20 system, but it was completely stripped down, rebuilt, and I think it works fantastically for the most part. It's a bit crunchy. It's definitely on the high end of my crunch level, but one of the nice things about it is that it gives you tons and tons and tons of options. So if you want them, they're there. But the system is also built streamlined enough that you don't need all those options in order to play and in order to have a competitive character. You can be very simple, and you can take some pretty basic powers, and you can still have a fully blown character. But if you really, if it allows for you to get really in depth with it as well. So if you want, heat-seeking, invisible energy missiles that explode into acid, you can do it with the system. The options are there, but if you just want to have your plain old Cyclops energy beam, you can do that too, and your character's not going to be penalized if he doesn't completely tweak out. Along with the Star Wars Saga Edition, it's again like one of the only renditions of the D20 system that I really like and would use on a regular basis, because it takes away a lot of the problem elements that I have with the D20 system, in that there's no levels, there's no hit points, it actually doesn't use a combat grid. You can if you want to, but the base game assumes that you're not going to be using a 5-foot grid. So lots of options, and it's a very good game. Unfortunately, it's one of those that I haven't gotten to play a whole lot after the last campaign I ran exploded, as I mentioned in my previous video. So that's kind of a look into the games that I enjoy I've got a couple of other games, of course, that didn't quite make the list, but that are definitely games that I like, because I like different games for different reasons, for running different campaigns. So I hope to come back with another video, follow-up video on settings. So if I get the opportunity and my boys behave, I'll do so. Thanks for watching.